So I want to have a round of applause to appreciate Mikuni's side.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Man, can we give a hand to all the above? Bringing rock into the church. Come on, man. Please, keep coming back every week. Can use some more of that. So, to start us off, actually, good morning, everyone, once again. I want to start with a little bit of a pair discussion. I love doing this. Just a very simple question, just to get us situated with who we're with. What is the highlight from your week? Or in Japanese, it's on there. I can't read that. But if you want, please pick a partner, make a trinity, but just discuss what's the highlight from this class week. So, we have a few minutes to do that.
In terms of playing the thing, it's kind of second nature. I don't think it's all okay. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. In terms of timing,
If you haven't already, please switch partners. If you haven't already, please switch partners. Let your partner share as well. Please don't let one person hog it all. Okay, we start wrapping up our discussions. Start wrapping things up. The trick is if you want them to stop, you give them a high five. That's the trick. Alright. So give your neighbor a high five. Tell them, give them a big thank you. Give your neighbor a high five. Come on. Let's do it. Maybe the discussion will just stay. Everyone's still going. Alright, we can start wrapping up our discussions. I hope everybody had something that they were able to talk about, a highlight, something that took place. Yeah. Can we just shout out in one word? What's a highlight from this week? One word. What's a highlight? Nature. Aju. Any other highlights?
Grandkids.
Band. Grandkids. Great one. Baseball. Come on now. Playing or watching?
Watching my son's baseball.
Watching your son.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay, that's acceptable.
Any other highlights? Grandkids. Aju. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I hope you all had a good sharing. It's always good to, I think, just get comfortable, just make the environment together. But for today, I want to. Oh, sorry. Where should I stand?
Move it just over a little bit. Just like shrink a few feet.
The sermon for this week that I felt was on utmost sincerity moves heaven. This is actually something I think True Father has had time and time again. It's like a mantra for our movement. Does anyone know when Father actually first said this? I found it as early as 1971. So since 1971, this has been kind of a mantra. And I think especially if you know about the Chunshimon prayer room, this is something that we hear all the time. Utmost sincerity. Our Jung Sung moves heaven. So I want to start with a little bit of a quote from our true father. I'm sorry, for our Japanese readers, I tried to fit it. I'm sorry. I hope it's readable, but I can read it. So this is from The Way of the Spiritual Leader. Father says, "What shall we do when we receive God's love? God has total love for us. How much is that? How much do we invest giving back? The saying, 'Sincerity moves heaven,' is a Korean proverb, but also it is truly the natural order of things. The words 'do it with utmost sincerity' means to do with all your efforts, inside and outside, heart and soul. Also, practice everything with sincerity in your words and deeds, means to completely unite your body and soul in a conscientious life. This is a life of dedication. This is what we call utmost sincerity or Jungsang. If you do everything with Jungsang, you can move heaven. Heaven is deeply impressed by that kind of mind." So, key words, I think, Jungsang. Does anyone actually know, any Korean speakers here know actually what does Jungsang mean? What does it translate? True love? Someone said Lankyung? Lankyung means Jungsang.
No, I meant more her opinion.
No, I will wait. Yeah, don't worry. I know. It's in the.
Doing Jungsung right now.
She's offering Jungsung right now. That's it. So on the speech, I actually mentioned at the bottom, Jungsung is hard to translate. In Japanese, a similar word would be seisei. I think that's what it is. I don't know Japanese so well. Seisei, though, it would be the similar concept. But roughly it translates, we typically associate with sincere devotion or total investment of heart and effort. But I just kind of did some digging just to kind of understand the characters a bit more. The character Jung implies your spirit. And Sung is actually two characters. It is character and it is accomplishment. So when you put it together, actually the full translation would be when you offer all that you accomplish internally and externally. So everything internally and externally, that's what Father says moves heaven. When you offer everything. These are the characters that I found, the spirits, or the word character and accomplishment. And I did some more digging, and I also found that there's a popular Confucian proverb attached to this. It is Jongsong Soji Gunsok Wige. I'm glad Lamkyung's not here to hear my Korean. But that expression means where sincere devotion reaches, even metal and stone will open.
Oh wow, I like that.
So evidently, there's this whole understanding and confusion in our traditional understanding that Jungsang or our devotion will allow kind of anything to happen. It will allow a miracle or heaven to move in a mighty way. So before we proceed, actually, I kind of wanted to go over this just a little bit more. I want to do a little review of POC. I don't think I need to educate any of you guys, but I'm going to do it anyways. So according to the principle, the divine principle, what is the purpose of creation?
Joy.
Joy. Thank you. It's to experience joy. It says it, POC 3.
That's why they bring them in.
Okay.
It should be true joy.
True joy.
Because there's lots of false joys out there.
That's true. That's true. True joy.
Sorry.
Okay. Secondly, to whom did God want to experience joy with? His children. All of us, everybody. Are children programmed to love? Or like, are we, how do I explain? Yeah, are we programmed to just automatically love? We just automatically do it.
No.
Yes, no, sorry, actually, maybe I should have phrased that question better. I was gonna say no because we're not robots, right? We don't just automatically just do things or just love automatically. That's what I meant, but we do love naturally. What did God give us so that we can love voluntarily? He gave us free will. Last question. So if God gave us free will, how would he want us to show love to him or to bring him joy? This one I wrote with sincerity. Sincerely. Not because they have to, but because they want to. This is to the parents. Maybe let's say for the parents with young kids, how do you feel when your young kids make a request for you? They ask for your help. Dad, I need help with my homework. Dad, can you help me lift this thing? How do you feel?
Great, I like it.
Great. Yeah, I think good. You feel maybe useful, maybe you're helpful, or maybe you just appreciate that they asked you for help. I think as parents, I want to experience this too, but we have a desire to be wanted or to have your child initiate the relationship with you. So I think God is the same. God is the same. If God is our parent, God surely wants to have us ask him of things. And surely when God sees a sincere heart, God cannot ignore it. Right? Can you ever ignore your child's sincere request? So God wants to naturally invest. At this point, when I was thinking about this, actually something that came to mind from my mom's quick little testimony. She was talking about Jungsung at the Chunshimon. She had attended this 3-day Japanese spiritual workshop, and she was saying that they did these trinities in which they were praying for one each other at the workshop. And there's a sister in her trinity who, for 18 years of her life, she could not get pregnant. She had either issues, I didn't understand the details so much, but it sounded like her egg didn't properly develop, or that it wasn't that she couldn't get pregnant, or it was that even beforehand, the egg itself was having issues with development. So for 18 years, she was praying and praying. And at this point, she was kind of nearing the age of menopause. And so she was fearing that she might never be able to have kids. So she went to this 3-day workshop, and she offered total devotion. And I think she stayed in Vegas for a while to continue offering. So this happened about a month ago. My mom said she was at this workshop. After she finished that 3-day workshop, they kept in touch, these trinities. My mom got a great report. And after 18 years of trying, they went to the doctor, and they said it. The egg is properly developed. And then shortly after that, greater news, she's pregnant. Can we give a hand to God? Yeah. No. She got pregnant after 18 years of trying. And I wanted to bring this up because I see this as a great example of her offering great devotion, great Jungsung. And I think from that, heaven was able to respond. And so they blessed her. So sincerity moves heaven. But on the same page, I think sincerity deeply moves us, right? We are deeply moved by sincere people. Sincere people are typically those that are very vulnerable, right? People who are very open about themselves. They wear their heart on their sleeves. Insincere people oftentimes have barriers, right? You want to look a certain way, you talk a certain way. No one likes an insincere person, right? No one wants to be around insincere people. My thinking was, I think the place where you experience sincerity the most is fundraising, where you are directly met time and time again with a lot of insincere people, to be honest, but also a lot of sincere people too. So I'm sure we have experiences. The few people I think are the most sincere that I think we're familiar with, of course, are father and mother, our true parents. And I think I think Father has a quote. He says, "If you take my life and you take God out of it, nothing makes sense." I think it's true. I think true parents have lived their whole life in total sincerity and dedication to God. And when you take God out of the equation, their life doesn't make sense. So there are people who always try to move heaven, and I think they did countless times and are continuing to. But for today, actually, as I was preparing for this sermon, I could just talk a lot about stories of true parents, but actually, when I was thinking about sincerity, I was actually thinking a lot about their children and their grandsons. So today, actually, I had more stories than I did have content. But I want to share stories. Actually, these stories are the ones that move me so much, because what I feel from these stories of true parents and of true family is utmost sincerity. I think it also fits. If you didn't know, their eldest son, Hyojin, his Ascension Sungpa anniversary is in about 9 days. So in 9 days, it will be his 18th anniversary since he ascended. So in honor of Hyojin, and I think of the true family, I wanted to kind of talk a little about them. Is that okay? I just do a lot of stories of them? Okay. Firstly, this is Hyojin. Look at that head.
Is it bigger than mother's?
Yeah, really.
His head is bigger than mother's head. That's his father's head, right? Is that a custom-made crown? I don't know. Anyways, this is Hyojin. Adorable. If you didn't know, if you're unfamiliar, Hyojin is the eldest son to our true parents. He is, yes. And his calling in life, Hyojin, was to be a rock star. Yeah, an actual rock star. He made 17 albums. You know, when I first heard that Hyojin was a rock star, I remember being like so shocked. Because I didn't know that you're allowed to do that in church. Rock music in church, who does? What type of church does rock music? Right, Uncle John? Who does that? So I was shocked. I didn't know. I didn't know. But I was really curious about his life. Actually, Hyojin is someone that deeply moves me. And when I heard about his story as to why he became a rock star, actually the reason why is because his mission was he wanted to witness to and change the world through rock music. So all of his music, if you look at the lyrics, are heavily about God, true parents, his relationship with his parents. It's inseparable. But Hyojin's story also moves me because if you know his life, you know that Hyojin made many mistakes. He had incredibly low moments, right? As a rock star, he, for lack of better words, he followed the rock star life, you know. Yeah, so many people around him, right? He had many positions when he was younger. Then he had this kind of phase in his life, and actually at that time, he was met with so much criticism. Everybody judged him. People wrote books and articles about him, and the worst was said about him. But the best thing about him is what he did after that is he came back. Mm-hmm. He went before his parents and he admitted to everything he's done, and he deeply repented. And you know what? True parents accepted it. True parents forgave him of everything, and they put him back into position after that. And you know, even after that happened, people still criticized him. They judged him. What are true parents thinking? Don't they know what he did? Of course they do. But I think about Hyojin and I think his mistakes and things I would hear about him. I just think, you know, like, what if we were all judged by our mistakes? You know, what if we were all judged by the lowest points in our life? I wouldn't be here. I think most of us wouldn't. So he had low points, but he turned it around. And he cites his reason was because of his utmost love for his parents, that he could not abandon them. So until the end of his life, he stayed absolutely loyal to his parents. And so there are many cool stories of Hyojin. Now, there are many great stories about Hyojin that I really like. Actually, the one that moves me is that shortly after he had this type of episode, he comes back to his parents. He makes this condition that in the span of 3 years, he wanted to dedicate 10,000 songs to true parents. And he did it. He wrote 10,000 songs for true parents. He did it from, I think, 2002 to 2005. Incredible. And these aren't like, you know, like little riffs. You know, these aren't just like a few seconds. These are full-length songs that his band has testimonies of writing and finishing and staying up for 20 plus hours just to record. But it's incredible devotion. Hyojin was also Hyojin also has one of my favorite songs. It wasn't one of the 10,000, but it's a song called Canaan Station. Has anyone heard this song? It is my favorite Hyojin song. It helped me through so many tough times. It's a song that's about, okay, this is 91, so this is before anything happened, but it's a song about how he wants to say goodbye to all of his past pains, insecurities, and insults, and he wants to focus on just moving forward with his beloved. that beloved being his parents. So it's a beautiful song. At the end of the song, like it's a hard song to sing. There's a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and at the end he's like kind of like gasping for air as he's trying to hit this final note. But he holds on to it, and you can feel every air molecule coming out of his mouth as he's giving this final note. And I love this song because what I feel is total devotion, total commitment to finishing the song. So it's awesome. Please listen to Kanan Station. It's beautiful. But Hyojin moves me because he's someone who wanted to use his talents to attend his parents and how he was able to come back. And he has all these stories about how he would play guitar until his fingers started bleeding, how his band members would literally sleep in the studio because that's how rigorous the schedule was. But they kept that, and a lot of them cite that. They did it because they felt a lot of love from Hyojin. So Hyojin, he was a remarkable person. And Mother says it time and time again, he is a true filial son. Because why? Till the end of his life, no matter what he did, he stayed loyal. And his love brought him back to his parents. Another son. They don't know who this is? This is Hunjin. Look at him. This is him in front of UTS. Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to be shirtless in front of UTS? But this is Hunjin. And admittedly, I'm sad because I don't know so much about Hunjin. Maybe it's because he was young when he passed. He's the second son of true parents, and he passed at the age of 17 due to a freak accident. But I only know him from these stories. So Hyojin, actually, you can kind of see it here. My understanding is Hyojin was ripped. Did we know this? Hyojin was buff. The reason why I heard that he was buff, his saying is that when the time came, he wanted to physically protect true parents if someone were to attack them. So he worked out like crazy so he can be like their personal bodyguard. Something kind of related. There's a story. I was talking to one of True Parents' bodyguards. I think Derek is in De Niro. He lives in LA, moved to New Jersey, but he's the bodyguard of True Parents. And he described a story where one time, after hours, Hunjin was in his room in East Garden. And then it had bodyguards, just some normal security. Hunjin escaped his room and he snuck out off to the property. And then he wrapped around and he snuck back into the property without getting caught by any of the security guards or any of the bodyguards. So Hunjin did that, and he goes up to the head bodyguard and says, "You're not doing your job." Why? Because I just got out of here and I came back in. What if I wanted to hurt true parents? So he scolded them, and I'm sure they improved their defenses after that. But I was moved by that because he was thinking that far. Kind of dramatic, but he was thinking that far. What if someone wanted to hurt my parents? So he was thinking, how can I protect them? And as I was doing some research about him, I also found this beautiful testimony about one of his brothers who wrote about his life. They described that amongst all the true children, all of his brothers and sisters, Hunjin was the one that was most liked by his siblings. The reason being was because when father and mother were often traveling, going around, Hunjin took responsibility to love his siblings. So they liked him the most. And I heard that Hunjin was also someone who was very focused on the young people. He's only maybe 16, he was 17 when he passed, so he was young. But he from his initiative, he started the first American blessed child workshop. Because he was so focused on how we can raise the next generation, we can protect them and educate them well. So he had that type of thinking at a young age. And then in that testimony, it was saying at the very end that the one who was most similar to true father was Hunjin in his character and his attitude. And that above all else, Hunjin was loyal to true parents. More than any of his other qualities, they said his loyalty stood out to him. So he was very loved by his siblings. And I think we know, right, we're familiar with his greatest act of attendance, which was he literally giving his life for true parents. If you know, it was a car accident, some freak accident happened with a truck and then Hunjinim, he had the opportunity to swerve the car in one way or the other to make it so that his passenger, his best friend, would be killed or himself, and he chose himself. And Mother describes in her memoir, actually, she believes spiritually that this was the condition that protected Father when he was doing VOC rallies in Korea. There was, my understanding is there was some bomb threat that Father had that day that didn't take place. She believes it was a protection of her son. So on a physical, spiritual, familial, providential level, I actually feel Hunjin protected your parents. And I really see him as a filial son for that. And actually, if you're ever wondering, that's because of their unity, Hyojinim and Hunjinim's unity with each other and with your parents. Actually, Mother says that they are the ones who fulfill the family four-position foundation. And that's why actually Hyojinim and Hunjinim are in the Chunshim one, because they completed that four-position foundation. Of course, they're in the spirit world. So that's them, total devotion. Some more. This is a true parent's grandson. Not him. That's Christoph Murphy. This one. This is Shin Hung. I call him Shin. He came to LA with his brother Ryujin. They're the heavenly top good missionaries in LA. So I had a great opportunity to get to know Shin. He's a goofy guy. I love Shin. Shin has this thing where he loved making fun of my eyes. He said I couldn't see anything. They disappear when I'm happy. So he loved making fun of my eyes. But it's so funny because his grandfather was the man who had a whole village make fun of how small his eyes were. If you know, his nickname was Osan's Little Tiny Eyes.
Yeah, right.
Real funny, Shin. But it's funny. But Shin was a fun guy. I loved him so much. But also, Shin Hung was the man who was deeply passionate. So passionate. Something he regularly would do with me was that he would pull me aside and he would just rant to me for minutes about how much he's struggling with this. He doesn't like leadership here. He doesn't like how we're doing this event or how that song went. He always did this. One time in LA, we were doing this Champumoron lectures. Pastor Joshua was preaching, and it was his first time. And then I stand up because I was getting a little tired. I was standing up in the back, and then Shin sees me, and he pulls me to the back. He says, "Come here." He pulls me to the other room, and he just starts ranting at me and how this lecture is no good. Joshua doesn't. It's just ranting how much he didn't like the lecture. And I was really struggling because I was like, dude, shit, let me listen. I haven't even heard it yet. But he was ranting to me. But his reasoning wasn't because the lecture itself was bad, but his reasoning was, why are we learning about the theology of true parents? Why aren't we sharing more stories about true parents? At the time, I didn't understand what he was trying to convey there. But as I look back, actually, I felt a lot of value in what he said. And don't get me wrong, theology is important. It's value. We need theology. But in my experience, when I think about Jesus and I'm reading his course, I'm not thinking about the theology. I'm not thinking about him being the only begotten Son, the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace, and all the things that led up to. I'm thinking about how he's loving the people, how he has lunch and meals with anybody, the commoners, the low people, and how his love just poured out of the book. I'm thinking about those stories of Jesus. When I think about true parents, I didn't grow up knowing she was the only begotten daughter and that he was the second advent. I thought about, wow, true father would give half his rice away to his fellow prisoners. This is a loving man. It was the stories that convinced me of who they were, not so much the theology. The theology helps, believe it does. But it was the stories that moved me and compelled me to understand who true parents were on a deep level. It's the stories. And so I really appreciated Shin sharing that with me. And I feel Shin has this kind of, he really looks at things in different ways. He really has a high thinking mind. So I really respect him. So Shin's actually 1 year younger than me, but I often look up to him because his devotion, his raw sincerity, it feels like it's on a different level. And I think it's rightful that him and his brother are the future leaders. I don't look forward to serving him. But, make fun of my eyes in front of Chunshimwon. Anyways, so I bring up these stories because I look at the sons, and as a son, I really resonate with the heart of Hyojin and Hunjin and Shinhung, because I really feel, through their talents, their gifts, their protection of true parents, they offer so much devotion, so much sincerity. It inspires me so much. Does anyone know who this is? That's true mother. No. This is Jongga. This is Jongga. This is Shinhung's daughter. This is from I think last year. It's funny. This is at a victory celebration, and there's all these leaders playing Utes, and then here's mother with her granddaughter just watching over. Oh, it's beautiful. Great granddaughter. I wanted to show this because actually mother says something profound with Jongga. So there's this story where there was this leaders gathering that Reverend Dunkley was at. It was him and a few other North American select leaders, and they're in a meeting with True Mother. And then one of them, he's kind of like you might know, he's like a top lawyer in our church. Sorry, I don't know his name, but he's this top lawyer in our church. He's been a long-time leader, and he goes in front of Mother, and he asks her, Mother, I've been with you for decades. I've been studying the principle. I'm trying to be a good member, but I can't reach individual perfection. So he asks her, Mother, how do I reach individual perfection? Mother's response to this longtime leader, she said, be like Jongga. The 70-year-old leader, be like Jongga. And she expanded, saying, Jongga has a pure heart that wants to attend her parents. That's what we need to inherit. Mother, if you look at her speeches, she has many stories of Jongga, and I think they all kind of fall into that same vein. One of them is that she says that whenever Jongga and her family are going to go visit True Mother that day, Jongga would put all of her dresses up, and then she would pick the dress that she thinks would make Mother happy. That's how she picked her clothes. There's another story where, was anyone aware of the international choir competition that happened maybe a year ago? No. I think mine was there. But anyways, like a year or two ago, there was this international choir competition in which they invited choirs from every nation and continent. North America came, and we had Mai Thurston who'd come there. We had Rebecca Zinke. We had a ton of our young members. One of them was Shinhung because he was a missionary, which I think was cheating to have Shinhung, in my opinion. But he came, and then they had this choir competition. And then everybody went, all the teams went, it was a great time, and the judges all gave their accounts and their scores. But at the end, they did one more step, and they asked Jongga, who do you think won the competition?
Oh, really? How old was she?
She must have been 2 or 3. 2 or 3. And then Mother describes it. Jongga doesn't know the concept of first, second, or third place. But Jongga says, Dada's team gets 100 points. Cheating. Cheating. But then Mother points to what she said next, which actually Jongga looked at the teams. And then Jongga says, Jongga has a big family. Jongga has a big family. And I think, isn't that God's heart? God has a big family. That's Jongga's heart. She just sees them as her family. The last story I think I had for Jongga that I think moved me a lot was, I think, is actually one that a lot of us may have read about. It was after Mother went into detention, to the detention center. Shinhung gave some testimony at the Chunshimwon night vigil, which he shared about his daughter. So I'm going to quote Shinhung here. So this was late at night when Jongga was supposed to be sleeping. Jongga came out of her room, and she went past the dark hall and sat in front of the vase she put it up for True Mother, and suddenly Jongga prayed, Heavenly Parent, please protect Wanggo Oma. Wang Oma, previous great-grandmother. Please protect Wang Oma. And the day after that, even though Jonga doesn't understand the situation of True Mother, the day after, she suddenly stood in front of True Parent's portrait, raised her arms out like this, and said, Jonga will protect Wang Oma.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that beautiful? Wouldn't you as a parent be so moved if you saw a heart like that? And I'm sure, right? If God, True Father, Hyojin, Hunjin, if they saw Jonga do that, don't you think Spirit World worked even a little bit harder? Oh God, this little girl is against request. How could I ignore her? I'm sure they were. So I bring this up because I think it's funny how when Mother says, how do we reach individual perfection? Is to be like Jonga. And yes, individual perfection is so many things, right? Our mind and body united. It's to have the subject content, it's to have submission of our body, renewing of our mind. Yes, it's all those things simultaneously. I also do think it is having a pure desire, selfless, loving, unconditional desire, and you just want to do something about it. You just want to protect your parents. I think that's what Mother is describing as unconditional perfection. So, my last, story or points, and then I conclude, is I want to share about this little children's story, what is given from the heart. Has anyone read this before, or read this to your kids before? No? It's okay. It's okay. But it has a very cute message, that's why I wanted to bring it up. What is given from the heart, it's a story about this kind of struggling family, and that they're part of this church community where one of their friends' houses, it burned down in a fire. It was a girl and her mother. Their house burned down. And then they all go to church the next day, and then the pastor is saying, in an effort to help our families, we're going to do this little charity. We're going to please donate and give what you can, and we can go support her family and any other family that needs it. And the pastor says, just give whatever you can. What is given from the heart reaches the heart. What is given from the heart reaches the heart. So this little boy in the story, he's trying so hard to figure out, what should I give them? And he's thinking about all these possessions that he wants to give her. But he realizes the things that are valuable to him might not be so valuable to her, right? Like, who wants your first place spelling bee award, Maybe not so valuable to her. But he's thinking, and the story goes through him asking different people, but what stood out to him was what his pastor said. What is given from the heart reaches the heart. So he realizes it's not a thing that he wants to give. So instead, he actually makes her something. And he writes her a book about her life, their friendship. So he writes her this book, and then he gives it to her, and she loves it. So she's moved, he's happy, and then at the very last page of the story shows that actually for the families, the church was giving care packages, his family also received one. So it's kind of this beautiful story about what's giving from the heart, but how God will reward your giving heart. So what is given from the heart reaches the heart. So with sincere devotion, this is going back to how sincerity moves heaven, right? So I think that, right, when we offer sincere devotion, right, it is recognized by God. And I think as we talked about, I think God wants to help us when we have a child heart, a pure heart, and we have these sincere requests, not bad requests, of course, but sincere requests that comes from the heart. We want to give to one another. We want to support one another. Surely God will recognize those requests, right? Once again, God cannot ignore sincerity. So when we talk about these requests, right, and I think that this is where I really value Chunshimwan, because Chunshimwan was made actually for this purpose. It's to offer sincere devotion and to let your requests be known by Father and all the good spirits. But the point being is that in whatever we have going on in our families, in our blessing, in our education, career, whatever it is that we're doing, God wants to help us. Surely He does. But unless we offer the devotion, God's not going to know. God knows, because God knows all things. But how is God going to work if we don't ask Him? if we don't let it be known, if we're not that kid who asks their parent for help on their homework, how are we going to know? So, the value of Chunshimon, the value of us offering Jungsung is to let God know. And I can't promise, as a person, I can't promise you that every prayer will be answered. But I can promise you that God listens. And that God will meet our needs, surely. And maybe our needs aren't always God's needs, right? Sometimes, right? Our prayers might not be answered exactly. But surely, God sees all of our devotion. And God will not ignore sincerity. So if you offer Jungsung, if you offer it sincerely, God will receive it. So, yeah, no one likes a person with ulterior motives, right? No one likes having a smile on their face and then being lied to or anything. It's interesting. You brought up how Reverend Dunkley's message this morning. In last week's message, Reverend Dunkley was talking about how there was this leader who was tasked by Mother to reach out to distant second generation. And then he did so, and then he talked to the second generation who are distant, and he comes back to Mother, and then he says, Mother, did you know there's so many second generation who have a lot of money, actually. Isn't that great? If we get them back, they can support Providence. Mother corrected him right away and said, stop. I don't want them because of how they will help me. I want them because I want to embrace them before I pass. She wants to embrace them before they pass. She wants to embrace these distant second gen. So she's not interested in what they can bring or this offering. She's just interested in how she can love them. So even to that leader, I don't know who that leader was, but can you imagine if you were in a second gen's position and you get asked, hey, how are you with the church? How are you doing with your parents? How much money do you make?
Yeah.
Oh, get out of here! Get out of here! We are. Father says we are spiritual beings, so we can sense. We can actually literally sense people's real motivations. We have that sense. So surely we sense it in sincerity. So please, as you offer devotion, do so sincerely. When you give to one another, give sincerely. Whatever you do, please be sincere. And I think that will move God and the people around you. Thank you.